Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Miller, the Business Development Manager for Attain Technology. And today we have Bob Paradise and me discussing the benefits of construction technology. There's a lot of technology in coming out in the industry. And really, what Bob has done is vetted it for you so that he's identified the technologies that are working and working well to help drive um, a competitive edge, in construction company businesses. Uh, but there's a lot of technologies that, aren't so robust, let's say. And so what we wanted to do was to discuss some of those technologies and really just get an idea of what's out there. So, Bob, let me ask you, you know, construction companies have been late to adopt technology, right? The first question is, for me, why? Why have construction companies been late to adopt the technologies that really have driven businesses over the last 20 years? Really, within the last 5 years, they've started to adopt it.
So that's a great question, Michael, and I'll tell you why. So what has worked for construction companies forever was the hand and paper method, and each construction company develops their own process that works really well for them. And one of the disruptors for them is that if they have to adopt technology, that forces them to change those great, well-defined processes they've have put in place. And even though some of those great defined, good processes are antiquated and cost a lot of money and time and effort. So this is why they're resistant, right? So, and also change, right? And we find the people in the construction industry a little bit more resistant to change than, let's say, somebody in a technology company or in a nonprofit, because it takes them so long to develop these processes, and construction is so complex and so many things touch the middle that they're hesitant about changing any of the processes, because changing this process over here might address 4 other processes that might break in the process. So,
Okay.
but with the advances of technology, I think it's if not when I think it's when you adopt technology and not if, because as these technologies come online, and some of those we'll talk about today, what will happen is you will continue to lose competitiveness little by slow if we're not adopting technology. And that'll become evident in some of the technologies we talk about today.
Okay. So the reason why suddenly construction companies have started adopting it is because they're losing a competitive edge and they need, like they've figured out their processes enough to be able to uh, utilize some of the software as a service, some of the other technologies that are available.
Well, I think that's part of it, but also they're being forced. So the subcontractors are being forced by the contractors, because the contractors are implementing technology. Common activity today is that the foreman on the site or the people responsible on site have an iPad, right? And they'll use like Autodesk BIM 360 to do punch lists and stuff like that, so that the contractor has a real-time update with pictures and status of all of the punch list items, right? So,
Right.
so they're already being forced to adopt technology, and if they already have this technology in field, they're starting to ask themselves, okay, how do I leverage this for me, right? So it's a combination of both things. So it's being forced into that, realizing the technology is not all bad, and that will have some benefits for them in the end run.
Okay. Okay. What are some of the technologies, we're kind of generalizing technology. What are some of the technologies that construction companies are adopting that
So,
have really changed their business?
some well-known, well-established technology that some companies haven't adopted yet is field payroll is a key one. To be able to get your field payroll to update your job costing system so that you have real-time job costing status, as well as in the old days, they'd fill out a spreadsheet or manually fill out a sheet, and they'd send that user list with all of their hours for 300 people to the office person in the office. And that person in the office needs to enter all that time, job cost it properly. And
Wow.
that's a day or two of labor for the person in the office, as well as they're not getting all of that information in. Then they need to vet that information because commonly some of it's wrong somehow. Wrong job number, wrong job cost code, wrong hours, right? We've had people get shorted on the checks because their time didn't get made on the spreadsheet. And so we're spending all of that time, and then the data's come out a week later or a week and a half later because they need to correlate it all and then start to run reports. And in today's day and age, we should be able to see real time on what our jobs are doing, right? So you have your job cost report, you can pull up a real-time labor hours this week, and you can comparison the two. Now, that being said, that really becomes important. Let's say a job's not going well, and you have, or you need to identify where you have too much labor. And this is one of the methods and tools to do that. You can see real time who punched in, who's working now, what's going on that job. So it gives the PM just a little bit more control to make his job profitable. And that's key. Another technology that's well established today is some of the estimating technology, right? In the old days, we would use digitizers, and we would digitize plans and get air square foots, and we would get counts off of the things. And that's sort of older technology, because today we can do this in a couple products, a product called on-screen takeoff or Plan Swift. And what that allows us to do is that inevitably, as a construction company, you'll bid this project, especially if you're doing commercial work, you'll bid this contract. And then 6 months later, they'll send you a new revised set of plans, right? Well, what this technology allows you to do is overlay those new set of plans over the old plans and just mark up the differences. So you're not having to do the takeoff 100% again. And it really has a time-saving advantage, right?
Wow.
So instead of spending 5 hours retaking that off, you just go up and take off the differences. So maybe you spend an hour and a half doing it. And then you can overlay all the revisions to see the changes from beginning to end. So it gives you some advantages in the construction estimating department, which inevitably will cut your overhead costs and then allow you to lower your costs to your clients to stay competitive with what everybody else is doing.
Wow. Okay, so let me unpack that a minute. So with the field payroll, because you're getting the information in real time, you don't have to have a team of accountants or data entry people entering all this data, last minute so that they can get the payroll to all the workers. But at the same time, they know who's on the job and all the hours that are spent on it, and understand the project status in real time. Like do they need all those workers on the job, right?
Yep.
And then on the other side, basically, I was just going through it in my head of all of the benefits that you would get by understanding the bidding and the estimating, right? So if you're able to, because as I understand it, in the old days, it used to take like 6 days or a week to do a bid for a large project, right? It took a lot of work. So anytime that they had a rebid, they'd have to do the work all over again.
Yeah.
And you're saying that they can, with technology, they can overlay the new bid over top of the old bid and just either add the little bit or subtract whatever is missing, and then quickly have a new bid.
Yeah, not only that too, Michael, but think about it. Now we're keeping this stuff in a database, right? So we can get historical numbers a little bit easier, which has a huge benefit. For that, inevitably someone's going to come to you and say, hey, I have this project and I need a price tomorrow. Well, the way to bid that is not going to work because it takes 6 days, right? So you want to give them a good, accurate square foot price. So you find another building that's very similar to it that you've estimated in the past, and you can do a square foot price, and you can do it, take off and do that. That's a pretty dangerous way to do it, but construction companies have been doing that for years and pretty successful at it. But also, keeping it in a database allows us to see the changes from one revision of the product to another, and really dramatically reduce the rebid time. You know, the having the items set up in the database also helps because you get to choose them, so you're not having to look them up. And then when you're all said and done, it saves you time and money because you can compile a materials list, and then you can send those material lists off to 5 or 6 vendors and get them to bid them. And we have some suggestions on how to do that to be more time saving and considerate during that period.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So it seems like there's a lot of ancillary benefits, so not only do you get, like, for instance, field payroll or estimating, not only do you speed that up, but, like, going back to field payroll, you get all these other ancillary benefits and insight into your projects just with field payroll. And with,
Absolutely.
yeah, and with estimating, you can, like, speed that huge. It was a time suck, originally, or back in the day, it used to take forever. So now you're able to do it with technology relatively fast. And that means that you don't have to pay all those people to do, they can be working on other projects, or maybe even other bids. Like maybe you could increase the amount of bids that you produce each week, because it's so fast, it's so much faster to produce bids.
So another technology that we should consider is project management software. And right now the leader in the industry is Procore. Now, we don't
Okay.
resell Procore, but we're a huge advocate, and this is why. Because it automates a lot of the process. So in construction, requests for information, change order requests, all of those become a huge hassle. And what Procore allows you to do is have one container for all project information related. Then you can create groups. So you can say, okay, here's the owner's representative. Here's the contractor that I'm responsible for. Here's the PM from the contractor that's responsible. And here's the site foreman. And here is, my internal boss and me. And then we're all part of the same group. So when I put a request for information in the system and I put a due date on it, now it starts sending out an email. And it says, okay, you have 3 days to this request for information is due. Oh, you have 1 day to this request for information is due. Oh, this request for information is past due. So it allows me as a project manager to manage the job better, but it also automates that process so that the people are getting reminded to get us the information that we need to keep the job moving and to make sure that nothing holds up the process. As well as it offers another benefit is if somebody's not responding to a change order or RFI, it gives you a leg to stand on when something doesn't happen as well. Contractors don't want to hear that, of course, but it just gives you that paper trail of what you need. And then you can put pictures and receipts and all of the project information, and records the daily weather, daily logs. So it really puts all of the job information in one place, right? So, another benefit to this is that, let's say you get another building. One of my customers does Avalons, and they're all pretty much the same, just different building counts, right? And they want to see what their experience was on this building. Well, they can go back and look at the weather for each of those days to see why did this one cost me more, right? Was there more weather issues? Was there more winter general conditions and stuff like that? So those are the key pieces, because understanding why one costs more or less could make you more competitive. Sometimes if you did this project and it costs you a lot more, you might say, oh, I'm just going to raise my rates. But understanding why and say, oh, that was specific to this project and not raise rates might allow you to get more and win more bids. So that's the whole goal here, is to give you the information so you can run your business. And in the old days, looking at that, probably would take hours to get that information, and you wouldn't get all of it. You wouldn't get the daily weather reports, and you wouldn't get the daily notes, because that's in a job log somewhere. It wasn't electronic. And so you can go in and look at what happened every day on that job if you wanted, and figure out what happened. So
Wow. So that's a lot of data that construction companies didn't have before. Does Procore make it easy to assimilate that data, or is it just data?
So it makes it easy to assimilate that data, but it also puts everybody on the same page, right?
Okay.
So the people that you're working for have all access to all that information that you give them, but also your subs have access to that information. You have access to the information the subs put in that job. So it's really a good place to manage the whole job all the way down, up and down the line. So it's
Okay.
it's sort of like leadership in some ways, right? It's not true leadership, but it gives the structure for your PMs to lead a job well, to be better leaders.
Okay. Okay. And I know Procore is used by, construction companies on billion-dollar projects. Is Procore the software you suggest for every construction company, or is there another,
Um,
project management tool?
I
Or
think that each construction company is a little bit different. And, like if you're an HVAC contractor, Procore might be a little bit too much for you. It might not be, right? Depends on how complex your jobs are. If you're doing, if you're doing $5 million worth of HVAC or more in every project, maybe Procore is for you, right? If your project size is $10,000 per building that you do, well, Procore is going to be a little expensive and make you not profitable, so we don't want to do that. So it's really a case-by-case decision.
Okay.
But in the end, there's other technologies that we can implant into your system, in a lot of times with utilizing technology already owned. And like one of the things is that, does your estimating department manually send out to every contractor, right? Let's say they're buying lumber, right? Do they send out to 10 lumber yards, all in separate emails? And do you request a specific format, right? So one of the things we recommend is create the format that you want them in. Make it in your Excel template, or give them a web online form to put that information into. And this way, when you get those bids back, it's in the format you can read and understand, and all 15 bids or all 10 bids are exactly the same. So there's no, well, this one has this one doesn't. You can see it right in your format. It's given to you in your format so that you can digest it in your format to make it quicker for you to analyze as well. The other thing we can do is take and create groups, right? So we can call it lumber purchasing group. And then that would have 15 vendors that you can invite with a single email. They don't see who's bidding on it, but then you're sending one email with one template out to 15 vendors, and then they get back to you, right? So it saves you time instead of sending 15 emails. So it's not just about new technology, but it's also about leveraging technology that you already own or already have today.
Okay. Yes. That's like an immediate time savings that is just so simple, that you have available to you that I don't think many people are thinking about. But can you imagine trying to incorporate 15 different lumber, quotes into your spreadsheets to figure out who's the best price? I mean, if you did it by hand, it would be, take a lot of time.
It's also a lot of time, but also time is very expensive, right? Especially these days with the labor shortages and trying to find people. We need to help our construction companies to do more with less, right? That's the key. Let's do more with less, because unfortunately the people are just not there, right? So you need a PM to run more projects, right? But if you give him too many projects and don't find ways to save him time, he's just gonna take on more projects and fail at more. And that's even more of a risk, because construction companies don't make a lot of margin. So that margin is extremely important. So what we want to do is take away the work that they don't need to be doing to give them, so that they can do something profitable with that time.
Okay. Okay. So that's like what is available right now that construction companies need to be leveraging, right? And taking advantage of. But they're not all, right? So we know that. What would you say? What percentage of construction companies now are leveraging technology like this?
I'd say we're probably up to 60% of companies are leveraging technology like this.
Okay.
There are a lot of stragglers. I'd say the 40% are stragglers. We're seeing construction companies adopt technology faster than ever. And we're also seeing a lot of cool and interesting things in technology that are coming about that are amazing, that like I am in love with the technologies that are coming out for construction today, because they're amazing. They're things that I wouldn't even have thought about, right? But they're things that are going to change the game, right? One of those technologies, sorry, I'm going to skip ahead of your question.
No, yeah, like what?
Um,
Yeah, like what?
one of those technologies is that they're working on remote site work. So you have this piece of machinery in it, has a bunch of sensors, bunch of cameras, has sound that goes through it. But the guy is sitting in Chicago in an office building, in an air-conditioned office building, operating that piece of equipment, right? And what
Wow.
that's going to allow to do is construction companies to hire operators as a service. So you only need that operator on that site for as long as you do, and it's going to allow people a better work environment to attract more people into doing it. You could do it just for your projects, or you could hire somebody else to do that as a service. So let's say you had 56 hours of site work. Well, we only need to worry about getting the equipment to the site, and then the remote operator takes control and takes care of everything else. Yes, there will be a time when that remote operator will need to call somebody and have them check something that's in the ground because they come up against an obstacle in the ground that they're unsure about, and they have to come up with a plan. But 98% of the site work, regrading, digging the hole for the foundation and all of that, can be done by the remote worker, right? And these are skills we're going to build in the future. It's totally amazing. Another thing is that in assembling a roof, there's a Hilti has designed a device that does the pinpoint weld in the roof. So the two pieces come together, and then you have to go through the inside and weld one part to the other. And it's made a machine that just goes through the building and does it automatically. You give it the building layout, and it has sensors and it has vision, and it just pretty much does it automatically. The construction company, a current technology that's out there today is let's say you do site work, right? And you have this pile of material. Let's say it's dirt or stone, right? Well, often you have to calculate how much material is there. Do I need more? Do I not? I need to ship it offsite. I need to get an estimate on shipping it offsite. In the old days, you would walk around that pile and estimate how tall it is. And then you would go back and do math, and you would figure it out. Well, now what we can do is we can put markers on 4 edges, fly a drone around it. It'll tell us exactly how much material is there, yard by yard. And
Wow.
and you know, a lot of construction companies, that's a lot of money, right? To know how many yards you have on site. Do I need more to finish the job? Do I need less, right? I need to transport this off site. You know, I need to tell a trucking company how much I got. I need to calculate the hours it's going to take to load that by the remote loaders that are going to load that for you anyway. So all of these technologies is really exciting. And every time I look, I find a new emerging construction technology. We all know about 3D printing, right? That is going to become a reality in the construction company, and that's going to become a game changer because they're going to 3D print buildings from scratch. It's going to be amazing.
Wow.
I've seen building size robots already being used to do this, right? And it's already being done. Another technology we saw, sorry, I'm a little excited because I love this
Yeah.
topic, is just recently a construction company in Pennsylvania used a rebar tie bot on a bridge project, right? So they were able to save 15% of time and 15% of budget by using this. And get this, they didn't have to get rid of anybody because they used those people to feed the machine. So they went and they used those people to lay the rebar, the technical piece that the robot can't do. And the monotonous task of tying rebar after rebar, the machine just went through and did. And probably did it better than the person because, you know, you get really tired of doing the same thing over and over again. And it's repetitive and it causes workplace injuries. So this robot didn't take away a job from anybody, but it made the job more profitable, got it done sooner so that the construction company can move on to the next job to use that same piece of equipment.
Wow. Wow. I mean, that seems like science fiction, you know? Basically what you're saying is that automation is coming into the industry and helping offset labor costs, but they're not actually replacing labor with it. They're just utilizing the labor to, like you said, feed the machine so that the projects are faster, so they can actually complete them faster and then move on to the next project.
And then with today's labor shortage, like we're gonna have to automate as much as possible, and we're seeing automation become one of the key features. So we're gonna be seeing in the very near future where they take artificial intelligence and tie it in with this automation to make it smarter and faster, for the site work. Artificial intelligence is probably going to be able to take over those machines so you don't even have an operator on it. You give it your instructions, and if it runs into a problem, it'll call you and tell you, right? So that's great. And we'll be able to do that stuff and then use the labor that we have available to us because it's in such high demand for the things we really need that labor for. Because right now, my construction clients, they can't find labor to save their company, right? So
Really?
number one complaint is that every one of my contractors says they could hire 10, 20, 40, 80, 100 people tomorrow if they could find them. The problem is not finding qualified people.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. That's incredible. So yeah, so they need technology and automation to help them, uh, uh, you know, complete their projects on time.
Yep.
And I can't imagine being an operator, right? So you said about taking the site work operators and making their job easier and nicer by basically putting them in an air-conditioned building somewhere where they can just use a computer and do the work on the site. That's amazing to me. I'm wondering if it'll come to like cranes, where
That I don't know. A crane takes a certain skill set,
okay,
and I think eventually automation will come to cranes. I think it's
okay,
just going to take a while. It's going to take a while for the technology to advance, and then there's going to take a while because there's a lot of regulations around cranes because they are so dangerous, right? They're probably one of the top hazards on a construction company
yeah,
that does, if you don't have an experienced operator to know what they can and can't do with a crane. And you've seen this in New York City where cranes have toppled and killed people and basically disrupted traffic and caused major issues. So I think, yes, the technology will come to cranes, and some of the technology will be to prevent those accidents from happening. Like if a operator does something incorrectly on a crane, it might stop his action, right? So some of those technologies will probably be the early adopters, and that might even exist because I didn't even think about looking at crane technologies currently. So
okay. And let me ask you one final question, just because I'm thinking about this. Um, Technology has within it amazing benefits, right? So you can run your company with technology. You can, increase efficiency, reduce costs. You can do all kinds of things, but it's also open, a little bit open, and so therefore it has like an inherent risk in it, like from hackers. I'm really trying to think of. So what about like the site work, right? So I'm thinking there's graders and rollers and bulldozers, and those are all going to be autonomous. How important is the security for those, so that not just any hacker could access it and take it for a cruise around the city, you know?
well, I think it's critical, right? And I think that good cyber policy and good cyber hygiene and good cyber culture, cyber security culture within a company is critical. And then also we would have to isolate that equipment, right? We would have to tell it who can access it, where they can access it from, geofence that area so that we reduce those risks of those incidences. Because you're right, someone could take the backhoe, right, and use it to break into a bank, and now they're using your equipment to break into a bank. So I think cybersecurity is critical, and it's at a insurmountable point at the moment, as well as they could use that site equipment to get into your network and then cause a ransomware attack or something like that, because each one of those devices is independent. So yes, we need to make sure it's secure, because like ransomware, every 40 seconds, somebody is ransomware. New fact out this morning, the CISA, the government entity that for cybersecurity, has announced every 40 seconds they're seeing a ransomware attack. So just
Wow.
imagine how many that is a day. I don't even want to do the math because, you know, the cybersecurity scares my pants off, and it should scare everybody that thinks about their exposure.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Well, Bob, really interesting discussion. I really enjoyed it. I thought, just think about what the future holds for the construction industry. And there's so many types of technology that you can take advantage of right now that can help your construction company, you know, get a competitive edge and reduce costs and complete projects quicker. So really, if you're interested in learning more about the technologies that can help your construction company, reach out to us at Attain Technology. Uh, Bob will, I'm sure, be glad to meet with you and discuss all of your options and how you can, move forward in the process.
The other thing is, I think that they should watch our website, because coming down the pipeline is I'm going to start a technology podcast or vidcast per se for the construction industry, because I love the technology and construction industry so much that I want to interview and talk to people with emerging technology. So, you know, keep an eye on the site. If you're at all interested, we'll be making announcements on the site when that becomes available.
Excellent. Sounds great. Well, thanks, Bob, and thanks everyone for joining us. Really had a great time, and we'll see you on the next one.